I have spent quite a bit of time in your community, and I am loving every second of it. It has just been a joy. I don't think I've ever seen more happy people, more proud people, and people with a sense of purpose. And I think that centers around the business that you guys have created in the community. So tell me a little bit about the business, how it was created.
First of all, kudos to the previous leaderships. The vision they had 50 years ago to start something like this and to see what it's grown into 50 years later. Everybody in Whitefish should be proud of the Development Corp. Currently employs probably 100 people on reserve. And then we have our subsidiary offices that, there's probably another, 40 maybe employees. But overall, it's 100% Indigenous-owned and operated, which is something to be proud of. I mean, you have non-Indigenous businesses that don't last as long. It started out like a sewing club, and then it got into, first of all, sewing coveralls. And we started cleaning the coveralls. We have, I believe it's like 30 women and most of them are women that work at both of these facilities, the sewing and garment and the dry cleaning. Vivian, 42 years.
Yeah. Wow.
And her husband over there at the dry cleaning side, Ronald, he's been there 30 plus years. Now their son, Kyle, he's a millwright by trade. Now he's our manager over at the dry cleaners. That's all family,
So the ladies that did the women's coveralls, so they have the buttons there. I know a lot of women who work at Suncor and Syncrude and CNRL, and their coveralls they love because they're different and they need to take them off differently. And, if they got to go to the washroom, it's in a dignified way that they can do it quickly and then get back to work.
I think they did a hell of a job. Design a coveralls for women. That's what we're marketing. That's what we're putting out now, is to reach the ladies in the trades and industry and everything this is tailored for you. To last this long and the way we've grown, starting out in those early days in the basement of the old school to now having these facilities.
I think that's what you've done in that community that's so unique, is that you've created your own place for your own people where everyone has purpose. I think that's one of the reasons I'm so drawn to you guys, because you've just opened a door to opportunity.
It started out tailored for the ladies, the women, to stay at home, raise a family. Unfortunately, some of the original ladies that have passed on to the spirit world, but man, some of them put in like 40 plus years, like almost from day one. Those are the pioneers of showing if the opportunity's there, grab it. A lot of them, their kids went through that system. Some of our current council members worked at these facilities. Bringing back Tom, he's a member of the nation and now he's our CEO. Bringing his experience dealing with governments, dealing with proponents from his previous employment, bringing that kind of experience and doing it from a member perspective as well. The sense of pride in doing a better job because you're a member from here. I think he's done a hell of a job bringing in people to support that system. Professionals that are not members move from just a regular board to now a more policy-driven board. Late Peter Elzinga, that was his vision when we got to a certain point. We have a lot of obstacles and barriers in front of us, but it's one step at a time. Coming out with a long-term plan to fix these issues. In my tenure as chief, this is going to be my 6th year, 3 as council member, and now I'm into my last year in this term as chief. I brought a different vision as well. More structure, more policy, more process. The way we operated, we've never wanted to stray. And doing what we're doing and right now, changing up these things, it's a big task because you're changing a mentality. I think we're starting to gain momentum in what we're doing. Because I asked the people, okay, what do you want to see? We want accountability. We want transparency, right? Those were the two main things. So the only way you do that is through a structure with process. And the way you get that process is through policy. So people know the rules. We take into consideration from a First Nation perspective, from a federal, but we also have to adhere to provincial guidelines on certain things. So our policies are kind of a mixed bag for a governance body. That gap has to widen between the governance and the administration. The everyday stuff. And what we should be doing as a government is lobbying with government to fix our issues.
Let's talk about the multiplex. You get a lot of communities wanting to build places like arenas or whatever, but it really struck me when a guy came in the other day, we were doing a video, and he's a little bit heavier guy, but he says he's lost a lot of weight. And he said, he was bragging. He says, well, look, I'm getting in shape. He's like, I've lost this much weight and I'm managing my diabetes. And he's like, and I'm like, well, how did you manage that? He's like, look, there's a gym. He's like, I stayed in my own community. I come every day and I work out. I walk around. And I thought, what a simple thing that changed the life of that guy. So tell me about the multiplex. How did you get that vision?
First of all, we were looking at building a facility other than our work space because we lost our old arena. We looked at it from a bigger picture point of view. We know our issues. How do we curb them? I took a lot of criticism over I should have spent the money on roads. I should have spent it on housing and everything. But we were losing our people at a pace that we shouldn't be losing these young people at that rate. And we knew the addictions issue, the drug issue. A lot of people vote to win and they figure you have a magic wand, you can fix these things. No, you have to have a vision. You have to have a plan, a strategy, and it has to be long-term because these things don't get fixed overnight. So even with the multiplex, we went at it first as just a nice rink, and we shifted gears when looking at these things from that perspective. How do we curb these things? And I know we lost basically a generation that had no place to do anything. By them having nothing to do, they're doing something they're not supposed to be doing. I looked at this and I said, how do I save this next generation? The little guys coming up, at least give them a fighting chance to don't go down the same road as the generation above them. We need a facility. Yes, we base it around the ice rink because when we had our arena, we had very good teams. We seen what it used to do, bring the community together. In that 30 years, I've also seen just the families building walls between each other. How do we tear them down? When we revisioned this thing and we looked at it, okay, how do we go from 0 to 100? Facility, ice, yes, was the main one. Then we looked at the walking track, the weights. We built a commercial kitchen in there, and we built a business portion as well. It's become our gathering place. And those walls I talked about earlier are starting to come down. Our people are starting to join in on these things. And a good statistic, and this is a good story, is we went from, before we opened our facility, we went from 41 kids, I believe. Their parents had the ability to take them off nation, play sports, whatever, right? Hockey mainly. When the facility opened last fall, that number went from 41 to 161 in a matter of 6 months. That's what I was after. Bringing all these other people in. Now they're sitting there having a coffee, talking, playing cards. This building also is designed so where we run programs in there, having our meetings there, having our programs there. Instead of bringing in an off nation, we do them there. And, I had this elderly man. He said he has diabetes. He's been able to maintain it at a safe level, stuff like that. So the reason why I also lobbied for a commercial kitchen was once we get there, we're looking at dietary stuff. Right? There's a plan. We're not there yet, but that's our goal. For me, it's been a blessing. And yes, it's a facility, but what it's done for our members is what I'm after.
What are you most proud of as chief that you and council accomplished?
I think for me was bringing in this change. The first thing I did when I got in as chief is I sat with the council. I said, okay, look, this is my vision. How do we get from here to here? I've done a lot of things unorthodox. Some of the things that should be just left for leadership to do. No, I bring in everybody. What do you guys think? Because I said it shouldn't be just us five to determine everything for everybody. You guys work here too. You live here, you're members. I want your opinion. I'm not saying I'm going to follow everything you guys suggest, but give me your input on some of this stuff, right? They're looking like, oh, nobody ever asked us that before. Instead of 5 of us doing this thing, we're broadening that scope, right? So all of this was strategically planned. It wasn't just done on a whim. Sometimes we agree to disagree, but at the end of the day, I think the main thing and the focus for me as chief is to bring a deliverable to our nation. Some of these things may look like they're out of reach, but they're not. You know, my role as chief is to come out here and lobby with the government. My council is my backup to that, is to, yes, tend to what's at home still, but I've given my council autonomy to our managers. Manage your staff. It's starting to build a momentum. We still cling to some of that old stuff, and it's understandable. Change is hard. A lot of people don't like change because it's out of their comfort. But who's to say we're not moving into a better system, better place for that comfort zone to go from here to here? That's my approach to this thing. And what we've done is actually, we're going to play the game here. We got some engineering firms come in and actually do all the engineering on drainage, on roads, on everything. I said, I want data because this is what I'm going to take and say, here it is. This is what's coming. You know, with everything going on right now, currently with the federal government, provincial government, and this garbage with the separation stuff and everything. I mean, I've had the ability to meet a lot of these, we met the Prime Minister and stuff like that. And I want to put them to the test because these things affect us. What's happening right now in Alberta, all they've raised is hatred, racism. I thought we were getting past that, right? But obviously not. Education is the key here. Educating the non-Indigenous people about Indigenous people. Well, that's I think, the biggest hurdle right now because there's a lot of misconceptions out there.
Like I've worked on quite a few projects and sometimes it's just two people who think they've got a beef. They sit down, they don't necessarily have a beef. You might be able to hammer it out.
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? And we're part of this world. We're a people, man. We're our own little economy. Nobody even looks at it that way. Let's take this town of St. Paul, where Whitefish is basically one of their biggest customers. Okay, let's say we take that portion of the economy away from that municipality.
Oh, that has a huge effect.
Nobody thinks that way. You guys are tax burdens. You guys are this, that, all that crap. Those are the things when I talk about education, that they have to educate themselves on what it means to be First Nation. Put yourself in my shoes and go through this. That's the thing. You're talking about a systemic racism that's gone back as far as we could remember. Not everybody's like that. A lot of people understand, just from a people perspective, that we are people also. There's a lot of things that go on that paint a false picture. At the end of the day, we feel the brunt of that. That's something I know for me as chief, and I can only speak for myself and my nation. You give me 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes with you, I'll tell you what it is.
Goodfish Lake Business Development Corporation is becoming one of the most successful Indigenous businesses in Alberta. 50 years, that's a long time.
It's a long time.
So tell me, 50 years from now, where would you like Goodfish Lake Business Corporation to be?
That's a long time to look forward into the future, but keep building. Keep building on it to build the community, because it's driven our community for 50 years. That's kind of the heartbeat of our nation from an ec-dev perspective. I think we start fine-tuning some of this stuff, building more capacity within. It's bringing our people out of their shells and saying, no, you can do this. Building that confidence in their own abilities. We're expanding our footprint, not only just coveralls and sewing. We're looking at new businesses where Whitefish is majority owner. Another good thing that we're very proud of at Whitefish is in the last 2.5 years, we've purchased equivalent to 35,500 acres of land adjacent to our nation. Our long-term goal is to eventually addition that to reserve. Yes, there's still roadblocks, but I mean, we're fighting the whole government system. Well, Whitefish is taking theirs back an acre at a time. We're growing at a pace where maybe we need another ton. We're growing our business. First and foremost, our main goal is to maintain the Dev Corp, and it's going back to making sure we have sustainability for employment.
So it's taking control of your nation's future and becoming the masters of your own destiny.
Yes, and doing it within what you can control to a certain point and fight what you can't control.
Ash, I have one final question. What's your message to the youth?
Education is key. Second is, if I give you the tools, use them. I'll give you an example. I had a meeting with our bank, the one that runs their finances, and I said, I want financial literacy. We're at a crossroads here where we're dealing with our sister nation. We've managed to be able to sit in the same room and talk and say, look, how do we go about this? How are we going to fix these issues? Yeah, they're years down the road. I want to be prepared when we get there. Giving our youth the tools, get them in that mindset of what it takes. How do you grow it? And not only the youth, but just us in general as a nation, making our money make money for us and putting ourselves in a better position for long-term stability. Through our IBAs, now we're creating a trust. And it's going back to your people and saying, look, this is why we're doing this. It's for this down the road. We've had our first AGM with our members last year in 40 years, if not longer. Yeah, a lot of people were scared. But I said, let's just go tell the truth. This is where we're at. Yeah. This is our situation right now. This is what's happening. This is our plan. We've sat with now our elders, our youth, asking them, what do you guys think? For me as chief, I said, look, I don't want to hear excuses. Give me solutions. We're all in this together. I'm just guiding. It's been an eye-opener for some that we're doing this stuff. But it's the same concept here. How do we grow our nation? How do we sustain the growth we're seeing? There was a study done here that took our nation and the surrounding nations and the municipalities. We're growing at a pace that outpaces the rest of them. I don't want to run into a roadblock and I don't know what to do, right? Right now, we're gathering all the data we need to make a case for our roads. A lot of people right now are just looking at today. We're looking at, okay, we need the data, we need all this stuff to go over here to government and say, look, this is why. This is what we're asking for. I don't care if we partner, I don't care but I want a solution to this problem. That's what we're talking about. That's, in my perspective, good governance. And we've trained ourselves to think outside the box. How do we fix these? There's always stumbling blocks. There's always hurdles when you're going to change. And we understand that. I understand that. And we're not going to fix everything today. No. But if we have a strategy and a plan down the road, this is our plan. This is what we're doing to mitigate those issues down the road. We're going to get there. But I also need the backing of my council, my administration, my members in order to get there. And I think us being open and honest to our people on what we're doing and our plan, our vision, I got nothing to hide. I mean, this is what it is. When I say play the game, is how do you do those intergovernment relations and stuff like that to help us? At some point, you have to do it. Going out there with a plan and putting them to task. This is your fiduciary duty. Despite what anybody or society thinks about how Indigenous people do things, I'm using the tools that are out there for me to use. That's what I'm doing.
What's your final message for the interview?
I just want to tell my people that despite all this stuff that's going on, despite all this negativity right now and current status of where we're at, don't give up, man. I take my job very serious. People put me in here to come out here and talk about these issues at Whitefish. I'm not ashamed, by no means. Sometimes we got to look in the mirror, say, okay, what are you doing about your situation, right? Bringing all that into perspective, and I would tell my people, this takes time. Anything that we do takes money, and it's my job and my council's job to go out there and get it and work with the governments, no matter who they are. And that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to put the nation in a better position, building a strong foundation government-wise, building a strong foundation financially. Yes, it takes time, but down the road, those little guys I was talking about earlier, those are the guys that are going to be sitting here. I want to leave them something that they can build on. And this is why I've basically asked, I want your opinion. I want your, what do you think we should do? By them putting in their input, they're part of creating the solution. Maybe not a lot of people do it this way, or it's kind of unorthodox in the way society looks at us. But for me, I think we are going down the right path. We're looking at this thing long term. You have to, because I want to leave something for the next generation and the generation after that, and so on. Going back to that vision of our leadership way back 50 years ago that looked at this thing and look at where it's grown. That's the same concept where I'm trying to do here with the whole nation governance and financial perspective. That's what we're trying to do.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.